Were the great pyramids built by the hands of men alone? Or did the gods and forgotten magic shape their towering stones? Beneath the scorching Egyptian sun, thousands labored, some by duty, others by force. Their sweat soaked the desert sands, bled against the rough limestone. Pharaoh Khufu had decreed it, the priests had blessed it, and the workers had no choice but to obey. But as the pyramid rose, so did the whispers of sacred stones that hummed with unseen power, of an architect who knew the secrets of the gods, of a curse that struck down those who defied the will of the divine. Was this truly a monument to the gods, or a warning to those who dared to challenge their power? Let us begin. The sun hangs like a molten eye in the sky, casting its unrelenting heat over the golden sands of Egypt. The air shimmers, thick with dust, as countless men toil beneath its oppressive gaze. Their bodies, slick with sweat, glisten in the harsh light. Wooden sledges groan under the weight of enormous limestone blocks, dragged inch by inch across the scorched earth. Overseers, standing tall with their whips, bark orders, their voices lost in the rhythmic clang of chisels shaping stone. A falcon soars overhead, its shadow fleeting over the backs of the laborers, a silent omen of what is to come. Far from the chaos of the laborers, in the cool sacred halls of the temple, an ancient voice murmurs. The high priest of Thoth, draped in pristine white robes, runs his fingers over the smooth surface of a golden scroll. His lips move in a hushed chant, invoking the wisdom of the gods. "The time has come," he whispers, eyes alight with divine knowledge. "The heavens demand a bridge, stone upon stone, raised by mortal hands, blessed by the breath of the gods." Pharaoh Khufu listens in silence, his expression unreadable. Behind him, priests bow low, their faces hidden beneath heavy hoods. The temple is heavy with incense, thick curls of smoke rising to the ceiling like the spirits of the departed. The gods have spoken, the greatest monument in history must be built. The torches flicker as a figure steps forward. Imhotep, the master architect, his mind brimming with knowledge both earthly and divine, kneels before the throne. His robes bear the insignia of Thoth, marking him as both builder and sorcerer. He bows deeply, forehead touching the cold stone floor. "You are chosen," Pharaoh Khufu intones, his voice steady, commanding. "You will build a monument that shall defy time itself, a stairway for my soul, a gate to eternity." Imhotep rises, his heart pounding. He has dreamed of this moment, yet the weight of destiny is heavier than any stone he could ever lift. He glances at the parchment, in his hands the first sketches of what will soon become legend. Outside, the sun dips lower, casting the desert in hues of crimson and gold. The first block is yet to be laid, but the sands of time have already begun to shift. Darkness blankets the royal chamber, yet Pharaoh Khufu does not sleep. His breath is slow, steady, his mind drifting between the waking world and the realm of the gods. A golden light pierces the void. He stands before an endless staircase of pure light, rising high into the heavens. At its peak, the sun god Ra sits upon a radiant throne, his eyes burning like twin suns. A voice, deep and commanding, echoes through the emptiness. "Khufu, son of Ra, you shall not fade into the sands. You shall rise beyond the horizon, your soul carried by stone and sacrifice. Build a monument so vast, so eternal, that time itself will bow before it." Pharaoh jolts awake. His skin is cold despite the heat of the chamber. He knows what must be done. By sunrise, the palace erupts into motion. Scribes etch, hurried decrees onto papyrus, royal messengers mount their chariots, and priests gather in sacred halls. The dream was no mere vision. It was a command. The Great Pyramid must be built. Across Egypt, the call goes out. Royal envoys travel by chariot and boat, reaching cities, villages, and farmlands. Every man capable of lifting, chiseling, or carving is summoned. Some come willingly, their eyes alight, with the chance to serve Pharaoh and earn favor in the afterlife. Others come reluctantly, their fates sealed by duty or chains. Skilled artisans, architects, and priests join laborers, farmers, and slaves. They pour into Giza by the thousands, their footsteps kicking up dust that will soon become history. Along the banks of the Nile, the once quiet shores now echo with the sounds of preparation. Wooden planks creak beneath the weight of stone. Ropes tighten, straining against colossal blocks. The river itself becomes a highway of progress, ferrying materials toward the site where the god's will shall take form. For some, it is an honor. For others, it is a prison without walls. Within the inner sanctum of the temple, deep in the heart of Giza, a circle of priests gathers. Before them, a slab of limestone rests upon an altar, its surface smooth, untouched by mortal tools. The high priest of Thoth steps forward, eyes closed, fingers tracing ancient glyphs along the stone's edge. "The gods have blessed this task," he murmurs, his voice barely above a whisper. "These stones are not mere rock. They hum with power, their essence drawn from the veins of the earth and the breath of the sky." The priests nod, their expressions solemn. Not all stone is worthy of the gods. The core of the pyramid must be built from those touched by divine energy, carefully chosen from sacred quarries. These will bear the weight of eternity. To the workers, they are simply stones. But to the priests, they are something far greater, pieces of heaven, bound to the mortal world. The entire kingdom watches. The air is thick with the scent of burning incense. The murmurs of priests filling the space between the crowd's hushed breaths. Pharaoh Khufu stands before the massive foundation pit, golden robes glistening in the midday sun. Before him, the first stone engraved with prayers, anointed with sacred oil, awaits its place in history. With a silent nod, Khufu raises his staff. The signal is given. A dozen workers strain, their muscles taut, their faces grim. The stone moves slowly, inch by inch, rolling over oiled planks. A single misstep could shatter the foundation, could anger the gods. Sweat drips, hearts race. Then silence. The stone settles into place. A great cheer erupts. The pyramid has begun. Above, a hawk circles, its cry piercing the desert air. Some whisper that it is Horus himself, watching over the birth of a legend. The sun blazes high, casting long shadows over the vast land. The first stone is laid. But the true test has only just begun. The river glistens under the morning sun, its waters carrying the lifeblood of Egypt. Along its banks, an army of workers assembles, their bodies taut with labor, their hands calloused from endless toil. Giant blocks of limestone, quarried from distant cliffs, line the shores. Each stone is a mountain in its own right, its weight enough to crush a dozen men. Yet they must be transported from the sacred quarries to the pyramid's foundation. Engineers, guided by the wisdom of Thoth, devise a solution. Wooden sledges are soaked in water, making the sand slick enough to glide across. Great boats, their hulls reinforced with thick papyrus ropes, groan under the weight of the sacred stones. As they drift down the Nile, priests chant blessings to ensure safe passage. The river carries the burden of the gods, but men must still bear the weight. And as the blocks reach Giza, a new challenge begins. Under the relentless heat, thousands of workers labor without rest. Their feet sink into the burning sand, their skin cracked from the merciless sun. The air is thick with dust, coating their throats, making each breath a struggle. Hammers ring against stone, chisels carving the precise angles needed for the perfect alignment. Teams of men, bound by sweat and survival, heave ropes in unison, dragging blocks toward the rising structure. Whips crack, overseers bark orders. The sound of suffering becomes the rhythm of creation. Some workers believe they are building a gateway to the heavens, that their toil will grant them favor in the afterlife. Others see only their own chains, their backs bent under Pharaoh's ambition. As the pyramid grows, so too does the weight on their souls. Far from the workers, deep within the temple chambers, Imhotep stands alone. Before him, ancient scrolls lay unfurled, their ink faded with time. His hands tremble as he reads the forbidden verses. Stone is heavy, but words are light. Speak, and the earth shall obey. He knows the cost of magic. It is not merely words, or will it is sacrifice. But the pyramid must rise, and time is slipping through his fingers like sand in an hourglass. By moonlight, he carves unseen glyphs into select stones, whispering the names of forgotten deities. The next morning, the workers are astonished. Some blocks move easier, as if carried by unseen hands. They call it luck. Imhotep calls it something else. The desert does not yield. It tests those who dare to shape it. One morning, the winds rise without warning. Sandstorms rage across the worksite, blinding men, swallowing tools, burying weeks of effort beneath an ocean of shifting gold. Ramps collapse. Stones crack under pressure. The workers flee, shielding their faces as the sky turns to fire and dust. Some claim it is Set, the god of chaos, cursing their work. Others whisper that Pharaoh has demanded too much, that even the gods resist his ambition. When the storm finally passes, the sight is unrecognizable. Days of progress are lost. But Pharaoh does not accept failure. The pyramid must rise, and so the workers begin again. The night brings respite, but not peace. Among the workers, whispers spread like wind over the dunes. This is no temple for the gods, this is Pharaoh's vanity. We are not building a path to heaven. We are burying ourselves. If we refuse to work, what could they do? Kill us all? A man named Setka, once a stonecutter, now a voice of defiance, speaks in hushed tones. He gathers those who have lost too much, those whose brothers, fathers, and sons have been claimed by the weight of the pyramid. Their anger is silent, but it grows. And soon, silence will not be enough. It begins as a whisper. A single worker, young and strong, falls to his knees, coughing violently. His breath is labored, his skin pale. The others watch in silent horror as he collapses into the dust, motionless. By nightfall, a dozen more are struck down by the same affliction, and unseen force gripping their bodies, stealing their strength. Panic spreads like wildfire. Some claim the gods have turned against them, angered by Pharaoh's arrogance. Others believe it is the work of Setka and his whispered rebellion punishment for doubting Pharaoh's divinity. Then the rumors grow darker. An overseer, driven by greed, had pried open an ancient tomb near the quarry, hoping to find treasure. He had laughed at the old warnings, ignored the faded inscriptions. The gods watch. The gods curse those who disturb their rest. Now the workers believe that something was awakened, that the sickness is not of this world, but a warning from beyond. And the deaths continue. The pyramid, once alive with the sounds of hammering and labor, is now silent. Fear has gripped the workers. Some refuse to continue, convinced that to touch another stone is to invite death. Even the overseers, once ruthless in their discipline, hesitate. Pharaoh does not tolerate hesitation. The punishments begin: beatings, executions, threats of starvation. But even these cannot erase the terror in the men's eyes. The gods have been angered. No mortal whip can undo a divine curse. In the shadows of the temple, Imhotep makes his decision. By torchlight, he prepares a ritual older than Egypt itself, a desperate plea to the gods for mercy. He grinds sacred herbs, draws glyphs in the sand, and carves a final inscription onto a limestone block. I offer myself. Let the sickness end. As the night deepens, he whispers the final incantation. The wind howls through the temple, carrying his words into the unknown. For a long moment, nothing happens. Thena, single falcon, black as the void, lands upon the sacred stone. Its eyes, dark and knowing, meet Imhotep's. The gods have answered, but mercy always comes with a price. Morning comes. The sickness is gone. Those who had fallen rise, weak but breathing. The whispers of doom fade, replaced by awed silence. Yet Imhotep is nowhere to be found. Pharaoh Khufu stands atop the unfinished pyramid, his robes billowing in the wind, his gaze fixed upon his laboring people. The delays, the sickness, the rebellion, it was all weakness. The gods have tested them, and now they must prove their devotion. With a single command, the executions begin. Setka, the leader of the murmuring workers, is dragged before the masses. The high priest of Thoth offers no prayer, only a cold nod. The blade falls. Blood stains the sand. Fear is stronger than faith. And so, the work resumes. The pyramid must be finished. It must stand, no matter the cost. The final stone is placed. The workers, their bodies broken, their spirits drained, watch in exhausted silence. Before them stands a monument unlike any before: a perfect pyramid, its gleaming limestone surface catching the light of the setting sun. It rises above the sands like a stairway to the heavens, casting an eternal shadow across the desert. Pharaoh Khufu, draped in gold, stands at its base, eyes filled with triumph. His name will never be forgotten. His soul will ascend beyond the mortal world. The gods will honor him. Yet, in the wind, there are whispers, not of victory, not of Pharaoh's greatness, but of the countless who suffered to raise this monument to eternity. In the quiet of the night, the workers leave. Some return to their villages, forever haunted by the toil, by the weight of the stones, by the faces of those who perished. Others are buried beneath the sands, nameless, their bones lost to time. The overseers are rewarded. The priests sing praises to Pharaoh. The scribes record history, writing of a grand construction blessed by the gods. But the truth is carved into the very walls of the pyramid, in the blood and sweat of those who built it. They will not be remembered, but the pyramid will stand forever. Some say Imhotep vanished into the night, carried away by the gods he had served. Others whisper that his body lies within the pyramid itself, sealed in the heart of the monument, an eternal sacrifice to its completion. But those who listen closely in the dead of night swear they can still hear his voice, in the echo of the wind against the great stone walls, in the whisper of the desert that never sleeps, in the silence of the pyramid that watches over the sands. Time will pass, kings will fall, empires will crumble, but the pyramid and its secrets will remain forever.